Hello there, you're watching The Pulse on the JoyNews channel. This afternoon, pensioner bondholders pick at the Finance Ministry, demanding payment of their maturing bonds.
To try and pay my money to me, even if they will seize the issued and give us our capital or principal money we use in the bonds, they should give it to us.
Okay. More as they ask government to borrow from the Treasury bills market to pay their matured coupons and principals.
If you don't give them that money and they don't get their medication and die, you can't bring them back. But if you borrow from the Treasury bill market and pay them, you increase your debt level a bit, but we can bring the economy back.
The World Health Organization declares COVID as a non-emergency situation. Should government continue charging COVID-19 levy? That's the question we're asking, the question of experts after the World Health Organization declares that the disease is no longer a public health emergency. Plus, the final lap, who wins the NDC flag bearership race? We have all the analysis for you as we bring you some permutations as the New Patriotic Party race also hits up. And a bit later on, we'll look at the procession and, of course, get some more from the Wildlife Division of the Forestry Commission of Ghana on the continuous hunting of deer as part of the Abuachiri Festival of the people of Winneba. It's all coming up here on The Pulse. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Digni Lua Affordable Safe Sanitation. I'm blessed Sogah. JoyNews is independent, fearless, and credible. Welcome to the program. We'll get your details shortly. Welcome back. Let's talk about illegal mining because Love News checks have uncovered illegal miners invading the Esobo Konkoma community in the Bosunche district of the Ashanti region. It is alleged that the illegal miners announced the intent to the local chief who received an undisclosed amount of money for the mining operation to take off. The miners have started degrading the land close to the town's basic school, digging huge trenches a few meters away. Love FM's Arasa Cesare Donko has been following up on the story.
After a series of complaints, we visited the small farming community of Esioho Konkoma in the Bosomtwe district of the Ashanti region. The concerns of the people stem from the invasion of this valley by illegal miners. The problem was not difficult to find. Huge pits eating close to the basic school.
Now, this activity that is going on here is purely illegal. The site owner, One Kingsley, tells me on camera clearly that they do not have any permit or license from any government agency to mine.
I went to greet the chief of Kokoma, which is necessary for any such activity in the town. When I started work, the Beposo Assembly laid claim to the land. I informed the Kokoma chief of the additional cost, and I had to sort them out to enable me work in peace. I gave the Kokoma chief some drinks. I don't have any license or permit.
Linguist to the chief of the town, Nana Chami Akwesientwi Bosiako, admits the miners sought the blessing of the chief, Nana Odro Ajay Penyin. Complaints had early on reached the Menchia Palace. Otumfo's clan chief, Otumfo Yokohene Nanaje Kumkusia Bebiu, last week instructed the chief to ensure the mining is stopped and the land reclaimed. But even as his linguist came to inspect, mining was still active. Also in this valley, another miner, Ato Roxon, is busily harming the earth away with heavy machinery. He tells me he has no permit or license for his activities.
I don't have any document, but we help the community when they come to us. The chiefs are not aware.
But Ato claims a police patrol team from Kuntanase took sums of money from them and allowed them to continue with their operations.
Police patrol team.
The police patrol team comes here occasionally. This job cannot be done by one person, so when they come here, they tell us to cover the pits. When they are done, we give them money and they leave.
The Kuntanase police commander was not available for comment when the team visited the Kuntanase command. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Asioho Konkoma, Bosomtwe District, Ashanti Region.
Very shocking details there. Erastus is back on the telephone lines now with us to have more. Erastus, have we heard from the local authorities, given the fact that they've given a tacit approval to what's going on within the community?
Well, so what we do know is that the chief of Konkoma, his linguist is the one we spoke to over there. And he admits that, yes, the people came to him, the illegal miners came to him, and they offered drinks in the form of money. But he wouldn't disclose the amount of money. But he says, yes, they came to see them with drinks, paid some undisclosed amount of money, and they gave them, their blessings. But then he is telling me that the issue, somebody complained. And in fact, many of the residents there have been complaining to our newsroom. They have also filed complaints to the Menchia Palace through the Otufo's Yokohene. And he instructed the chief to stop the mining and ask them to reclaim the land. But it's been a week. And the linguist of Yokohene, Otufo's Yokohene, was there to inspect whether they have stopped. And indeed, mining was still active. And so the district assembly, we learned, came there. They also took their part because they did not stop the work over there. But the police patrol team, in particular, they showed us pictures of the team that has been running the area. They come there, according to them, they take monies and they allow them to do their work.
About here looks more conspicuous, unlike the other areas that you've uncovered in the middle or in the heart of many forest reserves. How come that the security agencies did not spot this long ago?
And that is what gives me the inclination that this is not hidden from public view. It's just some few meters from the basic school in the area, and it's at the edge of the town. So the moment you enter the town, you see the devastation over there, and nothing has been done about it. The fact that they showed us the police patrol team, including somebody who describes himself as a national security operative, with a Kuntanase patrol vehicle, going around and not stopping the action, but allowing them to continue. We tried to get to the Kuntanase Police Command to hear their side of the story and to identify these people they showed us, but we were told that the commander wasn't available and he could not speak to us. So maybe in due time they will offer an explanation as to why that is going on in that particular part of the region, and nothing seems to be done about it.
So even as we speak, illegal mining continues?
Of course, even when we're leaving, the illegal mining was still continuing. The guy told me point blank, the two miners, there are two in different portions. They tell me they do not have any permits, they don't have any licenses, they are just mining, and they've gone to see the chief, and in their local language, meaning they've gone to see the king with drinks. And here the drinks translates into money. And they feel that once they've done that, they have a right to mine. And all other permits, including that of the Minerals Commission, EPA, and others, don't really matter.
Okay, let's be clear on this story. the activities we see, they're largely alluvial, which means that they're not using large equipment, just as the other, large-scale mining companies would do. Do we know who's responsible for the extent of damage we're seeing there? So whether or not there's a pre-existing concession and we have these locals just moving into cashing?
Well, so when you look at it, they are using heavy equipment. If you look at the footage very well, the first part, you see the pits they've dug in there. They rent excavators to do that. And these are purely indigents of the town. The second part, owned by one Ato Roxon. Ato Roxon is not from the area. But the first one, Kingsley guy is an indigent of the town who is doing the mining. And he tells me that he rents the excavators, and he has rented the excavators, two of them brand new excavators, 3,500 a day to do the excavation. The second one is also telling me, and for that part, when we went there, the excavator was active, doing the digging over there. And he says he's also renting the equipment. So it's not like somebody is behind it. They are the ones who are mining, who are controlling the whole show.
Okay, then, we'll leave it here for now. Thanks, Erastus, for spending some time with us. Of course, the story is unfolding. We'll definitely find out more. Let's talk about the cry for their money, because pensioner bondholders are back at the Ministry of Finance demanding immediate payment of their maturing bonds. Members of the group say they are struggling to survive due to the economic conditions prevailing in the country. Government promised to pay the bondholders who were exempt from the domestic debt exchange program, but the Finance Ministry has failed to make the settlements. Listen to a pensioner interacting with my colleague James Kwesi earlier today.
I'm a retired police chief inspector, a pensioner. And in fact, after I retired, by God's grace, I was able to put something down where I will lay my head before I retired. So when I retired, I had a small thing, and I decided to invest it so that I can be using it for other projects which I've planned to do, and to the same time using it for my medical care. As I'm speaking now, I've been referred to Ho to even undergo some medical check-up, and because of money issued, I've not gone yet. And I'm having 2 bonds with Ghana Commercial Bank, precisely Sogah Corporate Branch. And on the 17th April, a coupon is supposed to be paid for a coupon. And as I'm standing here, or we are gathering here together with my colleagues, today, 8th May, I have another what? Coupon. Maturing. Yes, to be paid today on the 8th May. And in fact, it's very painful for a police officer serving this country for almost 35 years. And the little I had for that my stewardship, and to be what? Taken by the government, in fact, it's very disastrous.
In summary, what's your message to the finance minister this morning?
Oh, my message is that I'm begging him. I'm supposed not to beg him anyway, because it is my own money. So there's no need for me to beg him. He should try and pay my money to me, even if they will seize the issued and give us our capital or principal money we use in the bonds. They should give it to us.
Okay. But how I feel that you needed money, and I was kind enough to give you my money. So I put away my expenditures, I denied myself of certain things, and I gave it to you. Now it's time to give it back to me. Why must I be begging for it like this? It's very unfair. So that's how I feel. You are not treating me fairly. Because at the time you needed money, there were so many other people who didn't come to your rescue. I came and loaned my money to you. Why must I come and beg for my money this way? It's not right. You see, It's not fair. It's not fair.
So,
somebody to dash me money. I mean, I don't beg for money. I don't beg anybody for money. I live within my means. I spend what money I have. So give me my money and let me just live my life quietly.
Well, my individual feeling is I'm looking after my 91-year-old mother. And it's very expensive because you have to buy medication. At this moment, we haven't been paid our coupons. How do you expect me to pay for her medication? You tell me. You tell me, because I don't know. So we are all very frustrated. Like my sister just told you before, we gave the government our money. We loaned the money to the government, hoping that we will get it back at the time that the government said they will pay us back our money, our coupons and principals. As of now, principals haven't been paid. There are loads of outstanding coupons. And what are people supposed to do? How are people supposed to manage? It's just very frustrating for everybody. We don't want to come and sit here and be picketing. This is not something that we want to do. We have things that we could be doing. But because our monies haven't been paid, we are here. So that is the situation why we are here today. Because our monies haven't been paid. We were promised that this would be paid to us. And of course, it hasn't been paid. So we are here. We haven't been treated fairly at all. And this is not right. We are pensioners. We don't have any other source of income. This is our only source of income. This is we invested in so that at least we will have something coming to us to use from time and time. And right now we don't have anything because nothing is coming to us. Why? Why are we treated so unfairly? Why are we being treated this way?
Sad realities there. My colleague James Savage is back in studio. James, for those who have not followed this story and who do not know the journey of these bondholders, just give us a brief overview of the commitment government made when they started this whole activity.
Yes, Blessed. So you remember when all of this started, it started on the 6th of February, 2023 on a Monday. They went to the finance ministry. The initial call they were making was when they asked government to exempt them from the domestic debt exchange program. I remember at the time government was putting together plans to enter into calling on its domestic creditors to sign on onto a new program. And so the pensioner bondholders were also part of those groups that were being called, but their demand was that they want exemption from this, and that is why they went to the finance ministry. It rolled on up to 16th of February when the finance minister finally met them at the premises of the finance ministry and mentioned to them that they have been exempted by government.
So an assurance was given
by the
way back by the finance minister.
That was re-emphasized the next day, Friday, 17th of February, when the finance minister appeared before Parliament to update Parliament on how far government has come in the whole domestic debt exchange program issue. And so their call was granted officially in Parliament. But they insisted that they would need a document to back that up, not just a word of mouth. And so later, the finance ministry issued a statement, and then they dedicated a paragraph to that, mentioning that government has essentially exempted the pensioner bondholders from the domestic debt.
But it added that they will honor in line with the fiscal constraints, with the fiscal constraints
exactly
prevailing at the time.
Which will mean that if we get the money, we'll pay.
That was the condition.
Exactly. And so they were hopeful that despite all of this, government will stick by its commitment.
Okay, now we're seeing them return to the finance ministry. Any assurance, any word from the finance ministry itself as to what's happening and when they are likely to get their investments?
As at close of day today, when they appeared there, they haven't had any interaction or haven't had any response from any personnel from the finance ministry. Now, before they went there today, Dr. Edouard Nanientwi tells me that there have been several letters written by the pensioner bondholders to government demanding for the payment. They wrote the first letter in March, early March. The government promised that at the time they were preparing to pay some of the bondholders the coupons on some of the bonds. And so they were hopeful that when that payment is issued, they will be captured in that. The payment, some payments were done, but they were not captured in. That's when you remembered we were told that some bonds have been turned into treasury bills by government. And so they were hopeful that they could be captured in that, but that didn't happen. And so there were several correspondents. Their final hope was when the finance ministry returned to Ghana from the IMF World Bank meeting and came to form a technical committee to meet them to do some negotiations. And so they went to do that negotiation. They withdrew from the negotiations because they said when they went to the negotiation table, government didn't bring anything tangible to them, explaining to them when it will pay, but was rather asking them to help draw a payment plan that they thought wasn't what they needed at the time, and so they withdrew. So as we speak,
no official communication. How about the leading members of the group? What are we hearing from them as the next line of action?
So they are going to continue this as long as it will take government to pay them their bonds. Dr. Edouard Nanientwi feels that it is actually a deliberate action by government not to mind their call, because he feels that government is getting loans from treasury bills, settling other commitments that are debt on its book. And so he thinks that it will be better if government considers them and also take loan from the treasury bills to settle their debt as well.
Thought that from 13th of March, all the arrears will be paid. But 14th, 13th, we didn't hear anything. Then 14th of March, we made a press release that why haven't we received that coupons, the arrears. Then on the 15th, government came out and started paying. He said he was going to pay, but he was going to pay for only the coupons that were due on the 6th February and 13th February. It was going to come out with when to pay the remaining coupons in due course. We didn't hear anything. Then later on, government came and said it was going to pay coupons that were due on the 20th February. 20th February, 2 coupons were due, plus principal. Government didn't pay the principal, but paid the coupons. Then we said, well, that is not what government should be doing, especially with people that you have exempted, and especially with people who are relying on their coupons for their medication and upkeep. Now, as of today, if the information we got that people have started receiving their coupons for March 1st and March 6th, as everybody gets, then there will be an outstanding of 19 coupons. 19 coupons and 3 matured principals. The first principal is 77 days in arrears now. You have somebody's money for 77 days, you are not paying any interest. The person is not going to get any interest on that. Instead of getting it back to these pensioners for them to reinvest and get their regular income, you are keeping it. That is not how to run financial market instruments. That is not how issuer should do to its investors. It is wrong. It's unacceptable.
So the 19 are members of your group or bondholders?
19 coupons.
19 coupons of your members?
Everybody who is holding bonds now, you know that you don't let your people die because you can't pay them money. That is not how to run a nation. If your people need money to survive, and the president once said that when people die, you can't bring them back to life. But when the economy collapses, we can bring it back. The economy collapses, we can bring it back. But when people die, you can't bring them back. And we are saying that when the elderly, who needs this, the who need this money to buy their medication to be able to survive. If you don't give them that money and they don't get their medication and die, you can't bring them back. But if you borrow from the treasury bill market and pay them, you increase your debt level a bit, but we can bring the economy back. For principals, I don't even understand why government will not take money from treasury bills and pay the principal, because that doesn't increase your debt level. You owe 20 billion. You have to pay 2 billion, which is due. You borrow new 2 billion and pay this old 2 billion. Your debt level still become 20 billion. So I can't understand why government will not even borrow from the treasury bill to pay the principal. Well, the government, I think, is more interested in the debt levels than the health of these elderly people. If you control your... But you see, we are in a society, sometimes, even privately, we sell our properties to take care of the sick. This country. If your wife is seriously sick and you don't have anything, you can't borrow, you take a property of your own and go and sell to take care of your wife. People's lives are better than the economy. When they get their money, they will leave. When the economy gets down, people will still work and bring the economy back. So don't be looking at the debt level, because of the debt level. People should go without their medication because they can't have money to buy their medication and die. That is not right.
Well, so James, we need to go, but what are the next steps? What's likely to happen from tomorrow?
The next step is, if between now and 10 o'clock a.m. tomorrow, if there's nothing, no official statement from government or any proper assurance from government, they will get back to the finance ministry or the finance ministry from 10 a.m. To 11 a.m. to continue the protest, for as long as it will take government to pay them their coupons as well as their matured principals.
Well, James Aveji, my colleague there, getting the latest for us on this domestic debt exchange program. Will definitely bring you updates. You're watching the polls on the JoyNews channel. We're also looking forward to that heated contest within the National Democratic Congress. The race is heating up. What are the chances? We'll do the analysis here on the show. Please stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. Many countries are receiving with excitement the statement by the World Health Organization indicating that the COVID-19 pandemic is normal. The World Organization indicating that the situation is no longer a health emergency, yet countries around the world are getting mixed reactions on what their priorities are or should be going forward. I want to bring in now head of the health desk at JoyNews, Fred Smith, who's joining us with first of all details of what it is that the World Health Organization is telling us. Fred, let's start off from even our case count, because I think that's crucial to the conversation. The World Health Organization, first of all, is indicating that this is no longer an emergency, correct?
Yes, indeed, because cases around the world have been going down. And deaths and hospitalizations from COVID have also dropped significantly since the outbreak in 2019. And so the WHO believes that it is not or no longer a condition which will require that we spend.
Yeah. And we need to clarify it because there's a difference from this condition not being a health emergency any longer, as opposed to the fact that you cannot contract the disease.
It is no longer an emergency of international concern,
right?
Because the spread between borders is highly limited now, because we see, and I'll share with you when I'm sharing the data on Ghana, how many cases we're getting from horizontal cases we're getting as against the vertical ones. And so the WHO analyzed this and realized that it's no longer a big burden, and therefore they needed to declassify it.
We'll talk about the safety protocols and what the implications are going forward. But let's look at our case count, for instance.
Well, if you look at what the WHO, the Ghana Health Service has put out, the last time they did the update was on the 24th of April, 2023. And at that time, there were only 7 active cases. All those cases were in the Greater Accra region. Nobody is severely sick from COVID, and no one is also in critical condition from COVID. Actually, the last time we had a death from COVID was January 8th, 2023. It tells you how low we have come regarding those cases. But also, if you look at where the cases are in Ghana, I mentioned to you Greater Accra, it means that all the other 15 other regions don't have any case of COVID as we speak.
Right.
6 of them were discovered through routine surveillance and people who were not feeling well and went to the lab to test. One of them was discovered at the Kotoka International Airport as a traveler came into the country. It's been some time now, 2 weeks since the last update. I would imagine that things have changed, improved for the better since the last updated us, Blessed.
And then we need to talk about the numbers and its implications. 7 was closer to the numbers we had when we declared a lockdown.
Yes.
Now these conditions are no longer prevalent, and I'm wondering what that implication will be for, say, the safety protocols. Are people advised to go about the safety protocols?
Yes, indeed. People are advised to stick to the safety protocols as was announced by the Ghana Health Service and the WHO. But if you realize, at the time we imposed a lockdown and all, COVID was very new to us. We did not know what to do to contain it. Now we have a lot of information about how to manage COVID. We know what to do to make it safe to be with people who have COVID, how to treat people who have COVID. Since then, we've had lots of people getting the vaccine, and I'm looking at the dashboard by the Ghana Health Service. We have 24 million people, 941,000 who have so far taken the vaccine. Our target when we started the vaccination was 23 million. We've exceeded that.
Right.
The world gradually is heading to herd immunity, because if you look at Ghana's numbers, we had issues with people not wanting to go for the jab and all that. Across the world, people were taking the vaccines in its numbers. So the world has improved since then. And even though we may have 7, and that number, I believe, would have changed by now, it is very safe as it stands.
I see.
To deal with COVID.
And the Ghana Health Service indicating to us earlier that they are embarking on a campaign to shore up the numbers in terms of the vaccination drive. What will happen now, knowing that it's no longer a health emergency? People are going to obviously think of turning away from the vaccination exercise. You've been speaking to some of the authorities there at the health service. What's the next plan?
Well, the plan is to ensure that anybody who qualifies to get a jab takes it. That's the protection we were all advised to take by the health professionals, especially those at the WHO. And so we're not slowing down on that. We're still taking the vaccine. If you're qualified, if you've been told that it's safe for you to take, get the jab. Right. That's how come we will be sure that conditions will be better if we sit here again to talk about COVID-19, because most of us would have taken the vaccines.
And how about the issue on what governments have been doing? For instance, we know that government instituted a number of measures and levies which was aimed at fighting COVID-19. Are they still in force?
Yes, they still are in force, and it is now up to the government, because if you realize, this levy that was imposed, I think it was in 2021, it was to help the government recover from the costs in dealing with persons with COVID-19 and related matters. Those issues are very low now. The hospitals are empty, almost empty of COVID-19 cases. Government doesn't have to fund on a large scale COVID cases. And so that expenditure has significantly dropped. So does the government continue to take this levy from Ghanaians? It's something for the government itself to reconsider.
Interesting questions there from Fred Smith, head of our health desk here at JoyNews, while the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Franklin Asiedubekwe, has been telling JoyNews how Ghana is incorporating these changes.
System is based on what they call the IDSR, the Integrated Disease Surveillance and Response, which is based on case definition. So that system is supposed to be able to pick Marburg, Ebola, yellow fever, or based on, because we run based on case definition. So the thinking is that we have a system that can pick cases of COVID. And then if you look at our case management system, now a number of health facilities have been put in place. The health professionals have been paid. So based on the level that you are, the idea is that you need to be able to detect it and manage at your level or refer for appropriate intervention. And then for the lab, we have a very standard lab network. Because when COVID started, it was only the bush. Now we have a number of labs that can actually test. So for the past 3 years, you can see that the system has somehow expanded that we can be able to manage
this new tax that has been introduced for the fight against COVID-19. And ask ourselves, if it's no longer a public health emergency, then do we need to be paying this money? As I have said earlier, because there's going to be a budgetary line specifically for the management of this disease. So government needs to explain to Ghanaians the relevance of that tax, especially with the COVID levy being still on our books and people still paying for it. And based on that, we can make a firm decision whether we need to have this tax or we don't. Because as it stands currently, I don't see the justification.
What's the message to Ghanaians on safety?
Well, what we were told at the start, let's continue to observe all of those and be sure that we are safe from it, despite the WHO declaring this as no longer an international, a condition of international concern. Thanks, Fred.
Stay safe out there. Leadership of Kumasi Zongo has taken steps to ease tension amongst some factions in the installation of a new chief of Kumasi Zongo. This follows some protests over the legitimacy of an elected chief for Zongo communities in Kumasi. Though the matter is being pursued in court and the Mensha Palace, the Zongo chiefs and imams, of course, have been working out the issue. There's more in this report.
Following the demise of Sultan Umar Farouk, who was chief of Kumasi Zongo, nomination was opened for a successor. The process, which led to the election of a new one, was subsequently challenged. The Zongo chiefs and imams fear the present order of continuous altercation from feuding factions could result in chaos. Chief Fulani in Ashanti region, Amir Alhaji Osman Ben Ahmed, addressed a press conference.
Of late, there has been tension in and around the Zongo community, followed by accusations and counter-accusations, which is not in good taste for the development of our community. This development came as a result of the nomination, selection, and subsequent election of the new Sarkin Zongo, which has been challenged, and the matter is still in court. The situation as we speak is very polarized with no ends in sight. It is on this strength of this that we, the chiefs, the imams, and then the leadership of the Peace and Reconciliation Committee of the Office of the Regional Chief Imam decided to step in for peace to reign in our community.
Meanwhile, the Zongo chiefs are calling on the youth to exercise restraint as efforts are being made to deal with the issue. The chief Fulani also wants the media to desist from using their platform to breed tension.
Violence at this stage of our development is not in the best interest of our society, because the late chief imam, Sheikh Imran Musa, has repeatedly said in Hausa language, "Kowa na gidan kowa," which in other words means one another as a result of intertribal marriages and then the relationship that we all have together. Regrettably, the demise of our late chief, Sultan Umar Farouk, should have united us rather than divided us. Therefore, on the strength of the above, we wish to call on all the youth to exercise restraint and desist from using abusive, divisive, and derogative comments that are likely to send the community into a state of anarchy. No matter the outcome of the selection, one personality shall come out as our leader. We are very much concerned, on the other hand, about the brothers in the media, which we are referring to you. generally, with a special appeal to our Zongo media or the radio presenters, they should try as much as they can to be very circumspect.
And now residents of Bona in the Nkranza North District of the Bono East region are appealing to the government to help construct the abandoned road networks in the area. This comes after the community, through a self-help initiative, raised funds from the intelligence from their own community to help shape the road network, which is currently affecting general economic development of the area. And Sabit has more in this report.
Boana is a predominantly farming community here in the Nkranza North District of the Bono East region. Amongst the numerous challenges facing the people here is the terrible nature of the road network connecting the community to its district capital. Residents say the situation is heavily affecting general economic activities of the area. Openi Kofi Apia is a resident here. Our major occupation here is farming. We produce a lot of cassava and gari, but because our road network is bad, customers who come to buy from us do not show up, and if they do, they charge exorbitant fees as lorry fares. We struggle a lot in getting cars to our community whenever we go to the market or when we are returning from accessing healthcare. The drivers will tell you they won't come because the roads are bad. To the women in this community, their major concern has to do with the fact that patients, particularly pregnant women, go through difficult times when referred to the nearest health facilities whilst in labor. Some have lost their lives en route to the health center due to the terrible nature of the road.
How they will be pa bwana mai obinyima kwani nyenti yenya bi enya ka enko ukwo so
due to the bad nature of the roads, pregnant women in labor struggle a lot when referred to the next community. They walk in some cases and some lose their lives or their babies in the process.
And we how pa high and my bifum and qua. Bisukura be one wunyauba and I'm nanti a one empty a caswank I'll be doing them.
Senior high school students are equally affected as they have to walk several hours to school due to the nature of the road. Isa Nafisatu tells me they have to stay home each time it rains because the road is not accessible during rainy days.
When it is rain, the road is bad. So we can't go to school. We will stay home. Then they are learning how for us there. We don't learn.
The road network was awarded to contract in the year 2020. Months later, however, the contractor who was seen working had to leave the site with the excuse that government has not provided the needed funding to aid their work.
Yes, the road has been awarded on contract. So we were happy that we were going to see something better. So the contractor came, made the open up from Tanobuasi through Kranka, Boana, Etuyefre. So the contractor was on the road. All of a sudden, the contractor was out of sight. Now, for our investigation, it was reviewed that the contractor has not been given the required amount he needed to do the work. And so he has abandoned the project.
Today, the community, through a self-help project, has been able to raise funds to help shape the road and make it motorable to help save lives. Women in the community were taxed to pay 30 Ghana cedis each as their male counterparts paid 50 Ghana cedis each to aid this cause. Michael Obo is a resident and a former presiding member at the Nkranza North District Assembly.
The whole community met and then decided to pay something. So each person, if you are a woman, you are paying 30 cedis. And if you are a man, you are also going to pay 50 cedis. So it's 50 cedis per man and 30 cedis per woman. So through this contribution, we are able to do something about that. Now we also called our brothers and sisters in diaspora and those living in big cities to come and help. And so with this, we went and then saw one contractor by name Nana Ankuma from Nkransa, and he agreed to help us.
These poor people are calling on government to consider the situation at hand to aid the contractor get back to site to help construct the abandoned road.
We are pleading with the government to find money for the contractor to come and speed up work so that we can also have access to our capital town, Nkransa.
Anas Sabit, Joy News, Buanai.
Well, I'll call him the presumptive candidate of the opposition National Democratic Congress, but it will not be a walk in the park for John Dramani Mahama, the former candidate of the opposition party, who is this time around facing stiff opposition from two individuals as the party heads to the polls this weekend to choose the next flag bearer of the NDC. The JoyNews political team has been putting a spotlight on John Dramani Mahama. John Dramani Mahama is a household name, and although his critics say the opposition party needs a new contender for the next presidential election, JM says he is unfazed but is rather focused on a simple rescue mission to secure victory for the opposition party in the 2024 general elections.
I am set and ready, very ready, to build the Ghana we want together with you.
But John Mahama, as former leader of the party, has had a checkered political history. After leading the NDC to victory in 2012, he has failed on 2 consecutive occasions to win any election he's contested on the ticket of the NDC, having lost the last presidential election in 2020.
Fingers on that verification machine. So a lot of things went wrong. We've done our postmortems. We realized that we have to go into the ring with our own referee. And so we're going to be much more vigilant than we were in the past. You know, you expect that the commission is neutral, and so there are some things you take for granted. But this time, we're not taking anything for granted.
But now his party is on the lookout for the next candidate to lead the NDC into the next general elections. And just when nominations opened, John Mahama threw his hat in the ring with an appeal to grassroots of the NDC to give him another chance.
And so I have offered myself on May 13th, we will go to our primaries, both for presidential. It is my hope that my colleagues with whom I am standing for the presidential primaries, we would come together as one. After I have emerged as the presidential candidate, rally together in order to ensure that NDC wins the victory in the...
John Mahama is facing stiff opposition from 2 individuals he's worked with in previous NDC administrations. First is Dr. Kwabena Dufo, former finance minister, and Mayor Kajo Bonsu, former mayor of Kumasi. Both contenders accuse John Mahama of derailing the gains made by the NDC.
That requires a leader with the courage to change things, to change the status quo. That's what I will do.
Time is up for Kojo Bonsu to run.
But supporters of John Dramani Mahama counter these claims. Some executives of the party are even pledging to secure total victory for the former member of parliament for Boli Pamboy.
For goodness sake, all my regional chairmen, all the regional chairmen for National Democratic Congress, from Upper East to Western North, each of them, I say, as Agbabito, support John Dramani Mahama.
I put the concerns about party unity and the decision of some executives of the NDC to declare support for John Mahama before the General Secretary, Fifi Fiavi Kwete. He told me that given John Dramani Mahama's track record, it will be difficult for any contender to overrun him. Are you aligned? I need to be blunt about it.
No, I don't need to be aligned. I mean, I don't think there is any secret at the moment as to the fact that one particular candidate seems to have the edge. But that is for the.
John Mahama has the edge.
I mean, naturally, if you've been what you call an outgoing president, you've actually been a presidential candidate, you clearly have a certain advantage over new people who are coming. But those new people, it does not mean that they don't have a chance as well.
It is unclear what influence these statements will bring to bear on the upcoming elections. But one sign is clear, that John Dramani Mahama will give his contenders a run for their money on the 13th of May when the party goes to the polls to choose the next leader of the NDC. The former president has one clear message.
At this stage, Ghana demands experience, not experiments.
Well, the contender of John Dramani Mahama, Dr. Kwabena Dufo, has been to the Ashanti region. We have a wrap of events there.
In the implementation of the buffer stock system, Dr. Dufo says licenses will be issued to middlemen to purchase from the farmers for storage by the government. He believes effectively implementing the system will increase the revenue of farmers and help deal with unemployment.
But we produce food, they get rotten. When we come back to power, we'll make sure every region, for example, have a national food buffer stock so that the farmers will be able to produce, get money, immediately go back to do their job. As of now, the foods get rotten. You see them along the roadside, rotten, because who's buying them? Okay. It will promote agriculture. It will increase the wealth of our farmers and they'll be better off. Okay. All of us will also be okay. We cannot be living in a country where we produce food, but we are all going, hungry. It's ridiculous. And in doing this, say we are going to license people to do the job. So we'll have licensed agents. They will buy the food. That happens to cook.
The Dufo campaign made a stop in the Ashanti region to meet delegates. The first meeting was held with the regional party executives. Key among the campaign messages is the strengthening of the party through the development of the grassroots.
That we need to help the grassroots. When we refer to the word grassroots, we are referring to the base, the foundation of the party. If you have a building, you have a solid foundation, it means you have a solid building. It applies to parties and all structures. Also, now, what can we do to strengthen the base of our party apart from the amateur? The work they're doing in the various offices, are they being paid for? They are not. It's voluntary. There's something like a part-time job in politics. So in future, we are planning to make sure that all our constituencies have nice offices and that the executives will be working full-time from morning to evening and all of them will be paid. By doing this, they will be able to improve upon that financial base.
For JoyNews, Nana Ochima, Kumasi.
And you're still with us here on The Pulse on the JoyNews channel. We'll get back shortly with some analysis on this. And you're welcome back. And indeed, we are your election headquarters. Joining me now is Samuel Kojo Brace with our political desk, just to look forward earnestly to that make or break moments for the National Democratic Congress. But we are here covering all of the action. Brace, let's start off with the euphoria amongst delegates of the party themselves. they seem to be happy with just a few days to the polls. So why is there so much excitement in the camp of the NDC this time around?
You know, the thing is that at this particular time, you know, you are the kingmaker, and kingmakers comes along. Being a kingmaker comes along with a lot of, you know, its own benefit and what have you. So that alone is something that gets people excited. Another thing is also that they see that they have a clear chance to form the next government. And when you know you have a chance to form the next government,
Right,
you know how it is.
definitely. And we'll be capturing all of the excitement for you. But of course, the head of the Political Science Department at the University of Ghana, Professor Alidu Seidu, has been, of course, talking through the process for us, indicating what the chances are for each candidate. I caught up with him at the University of Ghana earlier today. Professor Alidu Seidu, thank you for talking to JoyNews. The political atmosphere for some is beginning to get charged, and we're seeing a lot of increased activities both on the side of the governing New Patriotic Party and then the National Democratic Congress. What's your take on this increased political campaigns that we're witnessing across the country?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. So it basically has to do with the timelines for elections. You know, we due to have a presidential and parliamentary elections next year, 2024. And political parties will definitely have to elect, select, or nominate candidates to be able to contest at the national level, be their parliamentary candidates for the 275 constituencies across the country, or the presidential candidates for the national elections and for the presidency. So usually the internal democratic electoral processes will take precedent, and then they will elect parliamentary candidates for political parties. They usually start with orphan constituencies, and then they follow up with the incumbent constituencies. Then they'll now do the presidential elections to elect a flag bearer that will lead those political parties into next year's election. And time is of essence. Given these very tight national deadlines for these elections, political parties will have to elect. They all have timelines stipulated by their constitutions. But the important thing is that if you're able to elect a parliamentary candidate or a presidential candidate earlier, it gives those people the ample time to be able to campaign across the length and breadth of the country.
That's an interesting perspective you're bringing up, because it became a conversation when we saw the governing side have some disputes or challenges over the dates or the timelines for their internal primaries. It appears that for now, the opposition party has gone ahead of the governing New Patriotic Party. Would this have an effect, possibly on the general elections itself?
Yeah, to some extent. I think the MPP's constitution is very clear when they hold primaries, when they're in government, and when they are in opposition. But I do think that given the very limited, so people who side with the late Congress argue that when you elect a flag bearer for the party, power gravitates towards the flag bearer than the sitting president. And because the flag bearer have the capacity to now dispense benefits prospectively if he wins. So it means that the president now technically become a lame duck president, and a lot of presidents wouldn't want that to happen. They still want to have the control, the command, and people still gravitate towards him, and he can dispense benefit. So that's one of the serious challenges of having it very, very early. There may be other challenges, but one of the major. But when you delay it to, if there were conflicts emanating as a result of the processes, it becomes very difficult for you to be able to unite, deal with it in time, and to be able to present a united front ahead of the elections. So when you delay so much, and definitely these are competitive act, people who lose may not just think that they lost in a even if they deem it to be free, fair grounds, then maybe they will be able to participate and then bridge the gaps and you campaign together. When they believe that things have been skewed towards a particular candidate, then it creates a lot of acrimony. And what happens is that they either stay at home, they encourage people who voted for them to stay at home, or they even undermine the incumbent elected flag bearer not to be able to win the election. So on both sides, I think there are advantages and disadvantages. But if the opposition NDC is able to do it ahead of the MPP, it gives them a lot of time to be able to market which one of them wins, whether it's the former finance minister or the former president. They are all well known, but it still gives them the ample time to be able to crisscross the country, sell their message, to be able to do a whole lot of things before the MPP now elects their flag bearer.
Right.
So the idea is that it would have been good if they had done it early. But you also see that the incumbent ministers who have expressed interest have all resigned. That undermines government cohesion and unity. Assuming the what's his name, the vice president is elected, is he going to resign his position, or how is he going to campaign? But whichever way you look at it, once you are able to do this early, it gives you ample time to be able to douse all the ambers of disagreements that will emerge, and to give your candidate ample time to be able to move around the country, visit places and speak to people, and be able to galvanize support on his side.
Since you're talking about the NDC, in fact, they are taking a lead, so it will be fair to look at what's happening to the political party in terms of their internal reorganization exercise. Let's start off from the presidential level. We have John Mahama facing stiff opposition from two other people. I'm saying that because he was the last presidential candidate for the NDC. First of all, what signals are you picking from this decision of not just Dr. Kwabena Duffuor, but also the former mayor of Kumasi, to contest John Mahama, who many see as the most followed individual within the party? Is that a sign to say his leadership is being tested at this point?
I think it all speaks to internal democratic maturity, because our constitution makes provision for political parties to be internally democratic. And internal democracy means that you allow people the opportunity to contest, vote, and be voted for in an elections. So if the party has passed a rule that says that nobody should contest the former president because he is the well-marketed, well-known, and you will have been stifling internal democratic processes. So I think it is good that people contest him, and it is good that the party has made it implement their constitution that allow other individuals to contest him. So at the end of the day, the people will decide, and that will give John Dramani Mahama or whosoever emerges as a winner an overwhelming legitimacy. If you are able to compete and then you emerge as a winner in a free, fair, transparent processes, you have that level of confidence that the people like me, they have opposed this legitimacy on me, and that gives me the opportunity to say whatever you want to say. But if you are declared, you are protected, they didn't open it up, you also speak with a little bit of low confidence, because people will say if they had opened it up, maybe you wouldn't have been able to win.
So the competition is good.
So I think it's good for him. Once he's able to win with a wider margin, it imposes more confidence on him, and he will be confidently assured that he has the support of all his party followers to lead them into the 2024 election. And nobody will be able to say that had it been this way, you wouldn't have been the flag bearer. So it gives him so much opportunity, so much power, if he wins or whosoever wins, to be able to speak authoritatively, to be able to lead with confidence, and to be able to campaign in a manner that gives the party people the reassurance that he's the one cut for the job.
We don't know what the outcome will be yet, but Dr. Kwabena Duffuor is such a big force to run a race with.
He is. He is one of the party's stalwarts. He's been there, Bank of Ghana, finance minister, and a whole lot of things. So you cannot just discount him. So people often, most political analysts say it's a two-horse race between His Excellency the former President John Dramani Mahama and Kwabena Duffuor. But people don't think Kwabena Duffuor as that formidable to be able to cause an upset in terms of the presidential race. Right. In terms of his command and influence and achievement in the party, and this as a party, you can't discount that. But there's one thing translating that achievement and confidence at the party level to the national level. And very few people are able to cascade that particular support from the party to the national. John Mahama has been able to do that. He has moved beyond just being a minister to a vice president, to a sitting president, to a former president, and he has all the accolades. So, and he has been tried and tested at the national level. He has campaigned before. He has the experience and the expertise to be able to marshal all the support and command that's needed. So, if you match them on that particular score, you tend to see that John Dramani Mahama has an edge over Kwabena Duffuor. If you look at the the campaign and how it's being conducted, the people who follow, the number of people who come around when you go out, when you speak, the media coverage and the attention and all those things, you tend to see that John Mahama has that little bit of an edge. But like you say, you cannot just discount. Elections is elections.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. So we still want to believe that it's highly competitive. And that's why the former president hasn't just relaxed. He will have said, oh, this. But you see, he's even more active in campaign than even the former finance minister. So at the end of the day, we don't have the power to decide. The delegates will do. And when they do, try to explain why they did what they did.
Are we leaving out, the former mayor, Kojo Bonsu? Because he says that the NDC will lose big time if they don't make him the front runner.
I disagree with him. I think in electoral competitiveness, every candidate or any person who puts himself up for elections must be considered seriously. Right. There's something we call the concept of the challenger quality. You see, it's not just adding your name to the race, but how competitive are you locally, internationally? So in this case, at the party level, but also at the national level. So when you look at that level of challenger competitiveness, you know, he's less compared to the former finance minister and what's the name, former president. And even when you look at one of the ways you can pick the challenger quality and the competitiveness of those who compete is the cross-party attack that you get. Right. So when you look at the NPP, in all their statements and reactions, cross-party attack, it goes to John than any of the other candidates. So I think they consider John as a more credible, serious candidate who can pose a lot of threat to their candidate than all the other two. So you see the crossfire that usually, inter-party crossfire, usually target the most credible, not most credible, the most competitive of all the candidates.
But I was just reading a content purportedly from the camp of Dr. Kwabena Dufo, where he says the NPP has destroyed him than any other political party, just as a way of signaling to the delegates of the party that, look, I have more at stake than even John Mahama himself, who says he's making a comeback.
So I think maybe it may be in references to his private businesses rather than, okay, maybe that also gives you the power to be able to move you forward. So I think he's right on that score. But was that as a result of the anticipation that he may run for office at the presidential level, or the government was just doing their work in a very genuine manner, or they were just targeting him for other personal reasons? We will not be able to tell. But
so it won't be a factor.
Yes, so it's a big case you can make out of. Right. I think in politics, it's how you are able to sell yourself and make a very small issue a very bigger issue that deserves policy attention. So if he's able to connect his challenger quality and competitiveness based on this, that's how he will sell himself to the delegates. But it's then left with the delegates to be able to buy into that particular argument or not buy into it. So it's a very good way to make a very good point.
You've seen the trajectory of the opposition party, having moved from the likes of the PNDC, metamorphosed into the NDC as we have it now. Some say NDC 1, NDC 2, and now John Mahama's NDC, and we're post that era where he's still making a comeback. What do you see about this opposition party and its quest to look for a new leader?
So I think in this part of our world, opposition parties usually go through a lot of challenge in terms of funding, in terms of support base, in terms of the leaders that they select, in terms of mobilization and organization. Quite a whole lot of things, especially when you lose two close elections together. If you are not careful, it may disorganize the party, but also weaken the spirit of the support base. So that's why 2024 is very critical for the NDC to win. I think it started with the national level executives, even before that constituency, regional, national level executives, and the caliber of people who have been elected. We saw a lot of casualties that happened. People thought the party was going to disintegrate, but I think they have been able to manage their differences very well. Even if deep down there are huge cracks, definitely. For now, they have been able to present to the public that we are organized and we are doing very well. I think they have closed the first hurdle of the national. The second one will have to be the parliamentary. And then the presidential as well. If they are able to cross those hurdles to and be able to close their rank and file together, then they'll be poised united for 2024. And then the rest of the challenge will not be with the NDC and how Ghanaians perceive, with the MPP, and how the Ghanaians perceive both the NDC and the MPP. Sometimes it's not just it's not just overly display of unity. If you look at what happened prior to 2016, the MPP was one of the most disorganized parties. You saw the Delta Forces, the Azoka, Bolga Bulldogs, and all the machinations that was happening at the MPP's headquarters. The suspension of Paul Afoko, Kennedy Japan, and all. It was very nasty. They looked very disorganized, but they were able to win those elections. So sometimes it's not just pretending that everything is well. Sometimes it's knowing where you are and taking advantage of your weaknesses to be able to project yourself and win elections.
And that's an interesting perspective, because the presidential may look like a walk in the park for John Mahama, but the parliamentary level, some experts say, could trigger that rift within the opposition party. And starting off from some of the surprise elements we saw when the new leadership of the party took over, by changing the leadership in parliament. You've not expressed your thoughts on that. I mean, looking back at all the justifications, I was speaking to the general secretary of the party, he says it's to ensure regional representation, and based on the fact that the 2024 elections will be about the economy, they are putting, quote, their best foot forward. Justified?
Honestly speaking, there could be other reasons, but if it's the economy, I don't think is a very strong justification to some people, because if you look at the parliamentary composition, either minority or majority leadership, there are people with expertise in all the sectors. There is a finance committee, there's this committee, and both the minority and the majority have members who specializes in those things. And the party takes a position, and then they advise the leader on what to say and what not to say. So the leader himself does not necessarily have to be somebody who is competent in the economy, because then people will often say, then it means the flag bearer might as well be somebody with vexed economic background. But because party works together as a team, you work at the pace of the weakest link among you. So your ability to rally around and compensate the weaknesses make you a very strong political party. For whatever reasons that orchestrated that change of leadership in parliament, I think the party seems to be closing their rank and moving forward. But sometimes people may not openly express that anger at that particular level. They may express it at the constituency level, but also people who supported those people who were taken out of government in political science terms may want to avenge, those decisions. But a lot of care has to be exercised in terms of taking that particular issue as a serious matter, because prior to 2020 elections, the MPP decided to protect some few MPs from competition by other people.
And they paid the price.
And the justification was that, they are in government, they don't have time, they've done well, and look at what happened. So I think these are some of the things that, moving forward, they seem so minor, but people vote for very various weird reasons, right? And I think once those issues keep coming up, the party will have to take a very bold decision. After that particular change, they have been able to kind of close their rank. You don't see people talk about it, and you see the minority side working seemingly closer together, and things have been moving well as it appears now. But as long as guys will start talking about those issues, they will have to find a solution to it.
But how about the individuals who were changed? At least we've seen the former minority leader speak. He says, nobody can take Tamale, the Tamale seat away from me. For Muntaka Mubarak, he's facing quite a lot of challenge in his own backyard, the Asawase constituency, which happens to be one of the very few he preserved for the NDC in the Ashanti region. Do you feel that the party should come to his aid at this moment as a form of compensation, having taken him off from the front row?
So, in traditional established norm practices, the party is always supposed to stay neutral from some of these activities, and several of our studies show that in most of the constituencies that some of these political parties lost their seats, it has always been that the party actually supported a particular candidate, right, and then that candidate lost, and then when he won, there have become that kind of vindictiveness between the incumbent and then the current MP or the DC and the MP and all those. So per party rules, they are supposed to stay neutral. They are neutral arbiters, you know, they let the processes unfold. But if it has to do with maybe an NDC candidate against MPP candidate, then I think the NDC will have to marshal all its resources to support their candidate. But moving beyond even the party support, there is also that kind of informal parliamentary solidarity. And so what happened to Joe Wise?
Yes.
Ababa being moved,
all the came to his
rescue because they believe that even within our fold, there are people we still want to come back, regardless of the party divide. So even in circumstances like this, you are likely going to see maybe people within parliamentary caucus or setup trying to protect their own people, and sometimes even crossing party ranks to be able to do that, than maybe seeing the party coming strongly. Yeah, we often hear, oh, the party hierarchy is supporting this candidate, they are disqualifying this person because they like this. Those things happen, but formally, the party shouldn't display that kind of bias. If they do, it could cause a lot of harm. And you saw what happened at, is it Fomena? Yes. You know, the party position against the candidate and he going independent and what actually happened. So there are a lot of dynamics that may still unfold. And I think political parties will have to, especially the leadership, will have to be very careful the positions that they take, especially when it comes to supporting it, when their position will undermine free, fair, even playing ground for competition.
So
then they will
Muftaka should not be protected.
I think the party should allow the due internal processes to occur, and whosoever wins, then the party can support him against the MPP. Yes, Muntaka is somebody with huge institutional memory about parliament, parliamentary business, and if he loses that seat, it's going to be a huge loss, not only to the NDC, but to parliamentary business in our legislature and to Ghana at large. But that doesn't also mean that we can't get new people who also come and learn on the job and then become a future leader. I'm always against the idea of protecting an MP because of some reason. That MP was one time a first timer, and he has also learned through the ropes, right? So I believe internally the party should allow free, fair, open processes. Whosoever wins, then the party now throws their support behind that candidate to be able to move forward.
But we've heard from the likes of Professor Aaron Michael Kwe, who, of course, at some point was here in your department as well, raised the point about the high level of attrition we're seeing in Parliament. For you, you feel it's not a cogent argument?
Not even him. I think besides him, there are other seasoned legislators. I've heard the current majority leader. He's a key advocate for that particular thing. But I still disagree.
But we know good MPs, don't we?
You see, at one time, he wasn't an MP. He's a guru now, right. But he learned. If the seat he contested, that person was still there and protected, he wouldn't have been an MP and wouldn't have realized all the good things he's done.
So your point is give the chance.
Fantastic, right. and guide them so that we can have those elements of people out there. And there's nothing bad with parliamentary PTI, the Parliamentary Training Institute, bringing in those old people with that good experience to come and mentor and train the new ones. There's always a point of learning. And if you don't come in, if you are not given the opportunity, how do you learn? So if you keep, assuming we started protecting most of the MPs from 1992 up to now, all these new fantastic couple of we wouldn't have been able to get to them, right? So I still think that allow internal party democracy to occur. Let it evolve. It deepens our democracy. And when we do that, then the parties cannot support their elected candidates. And those new first-timer MPs who need support, the Parliamentary Training Institute and their political parties can provide kind of expertise and training to them, and then they also rise to become giants in parliamentary business and parliamentary affairs. But if we keep protecting, it gets to a point the MPs have been there, they even become complacent. When you complain, though, because they are used to complain, they don't mind you. But the new first-time MP, he's still new, so he's still on shaky grounds. There's responsiveness in governance. He responds to the people too. If I don't do, but wait, he goes first term, second term MP, third term, now when you complain, it's normal, kind of. So I think they should always know that their job is not guaranteed, and their job depends on their performance. And they'll forever perform. But if you know that, because he's, let's protect him. Protect him against who? The people who have voted him into government. You should let the people make a decision.
Let's take you to the Central Regional, because over the weekend the people of Winneba celebrated the Abuachi Festival, crowning it with a hunt of a deer by two Asafo groups. Jacqueline and Somayabua has a wrap of events.
The Abuachi Festival is celebrated annually every first week of the month of May with several activities. The Friday preceding the hunt is spectacular for Abuachi. Two groups, Tiafo and Dentifo, parade the town with their gods along selected routes in turns to prevent clashes. The Asafu groups disperse at the end of the day to prepare for the actual hunt the following day. The Asafohene of the Dentifo group, Theophilus Kojohom, reveals his group's preparedness for the hunt on Saturday.
By God's grace, we are done with the carrying of God, which is simply to purify the town and the people as well. What happens tomorrow is the day that we are going to the bush and make sure we come down or we come out successfully with a deer. So that is what we are waiting for. Tomorrow, the Trafo as a company will leave earlier around 5:30, and then we, the Dantifo as a company number 2, will leave around 6 o'clock.
It's Saturday, the day of the official hunt. The young and able set off into the forest to hunt for the deer. When a catch is made, a message is sent to the people in town, sparkling jubilations. More people troop into the Deba grounds for a glimpse of the catch. However, this customary practice has long been shelved because sometimes the date could fall on or soon after the Christian Easter celebrations, resulting in difficulties and inconveniences for some of the would-be festival attendants. It is one of the most prominent festivals which is celebrated with much zest and panache in the Efuti community. Jacqueline Ansuma Yebwe's report for Joy News.
Well, let's speak to Ernestina Adomia Enye, who's the Public Relations Manager for the Wildlife Division of the Forestry Commission. Thank you, Ernestina, for your time. I'm just wondering what's been the involvement of your division in the festivals that involve the killing of animals in the wild.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me, and good evening to your listeners. Yes, with the Abuachi Festival, the Wildlife Division collaborates with them to have this celebration. And it is in line with the LI 710. Even though the LI 710 does not allow hunting and capturing in our protected areas, we actually collaborate with them. We actually collaborate with them to have this festival because wildlife is not just for protection, it's not just for conservation. We also manage the resources. And you know, with wildlife, before we went in to manage the resources were being managed by the community themselves. So the Winneba people have the sacred grove, which is part of our Ramsar site and a protected area that we also protect for their use. That is protecting their culture and heritage. So with wildlife, we don't just conserve the animals, we also look at the sustainable use of these resources. So when it gets to the time for this festival or the celebration to happen, we collaborate with the people. And before then, they even write a letter to us as Wildlife Division for permission. And with the LI 710, that is the Wildlife Reserve Regulation, it is allowed that if any community or if anybody has a special use of the resources, you write to the executive director, and with his consent, you can have permission to do so.
I see.
So we are protecting these resources for socio-economic benefits.
I see. And in this specific
economic benefits.
Yeah, and in this specific case of the festival, what role do you play exactly in the hunting of these animals to ensure that, well, they're done in a sustainable manner, if we can term it that way?
Yes, we do monitor them during this period. For them to go for these animals, some of our guides are to be with them to ensure that whatever animal they are going for is what they went for. Actually, the animal is in a protected area, in a Ramsar site. Okay, so the Ramsar site manager ensures that they go in with them to ensure that they take the animal, like what they are, the bushback that they need for that festival, and that's it. So every time you write for such special use of these resources, we monitor you by going with you and ensuring that you pick what you actually said you were going to pick. And it has to be by permission from the executive director. So if the executive director agrees, is when we also allow people to go in and pick the resources or extract these resources.
What do you have to say about the status of the biodiversity point, the sacred grove as you describe it, within the area?
Yes, the sacred grove is managed by the park manager, the traditional council, and the district assembly. And there are a lot of problems going on there, or there are a lot of challenges that they have. Some of them are the cattle rearers actually taking their cattle into the reserve and then making them graze. The other part is hunters also trying to light fire to hunt some of these animals. They also have people cutting trees for firewood, for the fishmongers cutting trees for firewood. So all these things are being controlled by these three stakeholders. That is the park manager of the Ramsar site, the traditional council, and the district assembly. So the park manager of the resource ensures that they monitor the resources. The law enforcement officer always go in and patrol to ensure that these people are not causing harm to the protected area or taking a lot of, extracting a lot of these resources. So they ensure that by patrolling inside the forest every day. But you know, sometimes as soon as you move away from the resources, then somebody also enter, like a cattle rearer will enter with his cattle to graze, or some hunters will find a way of entering into the reserve. So we do monitor every time. We ensure that the resources are protected and conserved. But once in a while, people get chance or their way to enter the reserve.
All right then, I see. And I'm sure that you're taking steps to prevent or restore the area. I'm grateful for your time here on The Pulse.
Thank you very much.
And that's all we have for you here on the show. I'm Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com. Amazing stories there for you. We'll see you again.